What is a fallacy? Can you tell me what a fallacy is?
There's a huge, kind of inside baseball, there's a huge fight with some of the more traditional cardinals with the Pope over a number of years, and actually calling him a heretic. They sent out letters to him called the dubia, other things for him to respond to, and he kind of blew them off. So there's a huge, almost like schism now in the church between what the modern church is and what the traditional church stands for. And I think that's the fight you're going to see leading up to May 7th, even in the conclave and thereafter.
I grew up under the Catholic Church of Fulton Sheen. The Catholic Church was a bulwark against anti-communism, or against communism, against authoritarianism, whether it was in China or whether it was in Russia or whether it was in Poland. So yes, I find the accommodation with the Chinese Communist Party, which is one of the most brutal, vicious regimes on the face of the earth. This is a place where those who practice Falun Gong are arrested and their organs are harvested. I find accommodation with evil to be evil itself. The Pope's embrace of Marxism, his acceptance of a crucifix from the leader of, I think it was Bolivia, that was adorned with a hammer and sickle. That is not the Catholic Church of Pope John II that I prefer.
Hey, Dyer, you've been very critical of Pope Francis, said the next Pope needs to stop bending the knee to wokeness, to ecumenism, to ultimately a one world religion in particular. It did seem that whatever side of the Pope Francis debate you sat, everyone accepted he was a pretty liberal Pope by the standards of modern popes. And, liberalism in the sort of more progressive interpretation of it has been repudiated all around the world pretty much in political elections, which would lend some succor, I would argue, to the thought that maybe the Pope should move with the actual times, which is to be perhaps a bit more traditional, to be less progressive. But actually, many Catholics have actually recoiled against the attempt to make it more progressive.
Yeah, but the problem is, and when Bannon was on earlier, he made some great points on this issue. But the problem is that you've already dogmatized the documents of Vatican II in the Roman Catholic system. So there is no way to go back to a pre-Vatican II church or to create some new reform movement. There's multiple statements from the Vatican itself, particularly Francis, more recent in 2017, even said that the reforms of Vatican II are irreversible and magisterial. So there is no way to go back to some pre-Vatican II church. It's just a fiction that a lot of traditional Catholics tell themselves. And of course, I'm a big fan of Francis because he is a great apologist for Orthodox Christianity. We've had more people convert to Orthodoxy under Francis than ever before. So he's sending them our way. And I don't think you're going to get anybody better than Francis, since he appointed 108 of the 135 cardinals. They're all going to be Francis 2.0.
Important, whoever becomes the next pope, that they are not perhaps seen to be taking sides in a war like that? Or is the point of a pope that he should take sides sometimes?
No, I think he's yet another example of the Pope getting into politics. He has no criticism for Marxism, but he criticizes capitalism. He has no criticism for radical Islam, but he praises or reaches accommodation with the Chinese. He calls President Trump's immigration policy anti-Christian, interference in an American election. I'd like to return to a time when the Pope speaks to matters of faith. The church certainly needs it, but he needs to stay out of American and frankly, world politics. That is not his role. The other problem I have here, Piers, is the fact that Cardinal Francis brought back Cardinal McCarrick, who we know was a vicious pedophile, appointed him as a special counselor. I think this sends a terrible sign. The church has been plagued by pedophilia. The church has dealt with it, but to bring McCarrick back, who was ultimately defrocked once we learned how horrific his crimes were, is a very bad sign, and yet another, I think, accommodation with evil by Pope Francis.
If you are going to preach inclusion, then what's inclusive about only allowing men to be priests. It seems very sexist.
Well, I mean, I don't preach inclusion. I don't think that that is the essence of the gospel or Jesus' teaching. I think both the people flanking me have chosen one side and one piece of what Christ taught and neglected the rest of what he taught, which is boundaries, which is tradition, which is what the church handed down. I mean, the Roman Catholic Church itself has always forbidden this, and the fact that Francis was exploring it literally proves Francis's revolutionary ethos. I mean, the Anglican guy next to me said that Francis wasn't a liberal, and then he literally lists all the liberal policies that show he was a liberal. The fact that he's a Jesuit has nothing to do with whether he's liberal or not. It proves the point that, yeah, Francis is a revolutionary, and Jesus laid down a tradition that is unchanging. And the church itself already said you can't change these things. So it would just be contradicting the religion, and it would make Christianity into cuckianity.